Hi, I'm Sarah from Sewing with Sarah, and today I'm here with an extra tutorial video for you on what to do when you get a skip stitch on your cover stitch. I have a separate video for how to prevent skip stitches, but if you're cover stitching, you know that they're going to happen sometimes. So my video today shows you what I do when I do get a skip stitch. Now I went ahead and kind of caused a skip stitch on a sample for my on my sewing machine for you. So this is what it looks like, and this tends to happen when your machine can't get over an area of bulk or the needle threads get caught somehow. So sometimes you'll end up with like a bunch of stitches really close together, and then a stitch that's maybe skipped in the middle or something like that, where you can tell that there's some thread missing. So when I see this, you have kind of two options. One, you can just go over it again, and I have a separate video for how to start and end a cover stitch. But if you want to remove the affected stitching, then you just take your seam ripper and just rip that right out. And what I do kind of depends on the type of fabric I'm using. So if I'm using a fabric that I know is not going to handle seam ripping very well, then I will, have a tendency to just go over it. But if I'm using a fabric, the athletic fabric that's good quality and can handle the seam ripping, then I usually will go ahead and just remove and redo. So I've removed the stitching in that area. Now if you had more stitching up here, that's okay, you can have a gap and then continue it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back to my machine, and since I'm reverse cover stitching, I'm going to start my needles on the wrong side, and I'm going to start them about an inch or two above where my stitching was removed. And then I'm going to continue an inch or two below, if I had something below this, an inch or two below where I stopped ripping stitches out. And I'm going to just kind of take it over there and line up my needles. It's really important that they be well lined up here. And then once you've got your needles well lined up, you're just going to proceed, and hopefully you've done some pounding, or you're adjusting how you're feeding through the fabric to try to prevent another skip stitch. And I'll even use my hand crank if needed, just to make sure I'm not skipping any stitches until I get kind of to the top of a bulky part, and then I'll just end my stitch. And I have a separate video for how to end a cover stitch. But when you pull it out, you should notice that this is what you have. So you're gonna have an area where you went over a little bit twice, and you can see that the threads are darker there. That's okay. To be honest, 99% of the time, you're not gonna be able to notice that. It's really obvious on this yellow fabric with this dark green thread. But I feel like that looks better than a skip stitch. And then my stitch just continues. Now you are gonna have a spot right here where you have kind of a needle thread hanging out, and I just clip that right off. Okay, and then on the back, for extra insurance, you could tie some of those threads together. I haven't been real careful about keeping my threads nice on the back of this. You could just kind of knot them by hand. But when you end your cover stitch, you should be kind of knotting them as a part of that. So you can see they're knotted down here. Okay, so that's what I do when I skip a stitch. I'll remove and then redo, or just kind of go over it and create a little bit of extra thread if I don't think it's going to be too obvious there. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Make sure you check out my other cover stitch bonus video tutorials on my YouTube channel, Sewing with Sarah, or on my blog, sewingwithsarah.com, and I'll catch you later.